Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to get started right at about 7:05. This is a free show. Just to remind you, every Thursday show with Don is free. But if you would like to donate, the information is on the screen and there are links in the chat. Thank you so much. We'll get started soon. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be bringing Don out at 5 after 7, and we're going to get things rolling. A reminder that, as always, on Thursday, this is a free show. Do not feel obligated to tip, but if you would like to support Don and the Storytelling Arts of Indiana, the info is on the screen, and there are links in the chat. Thank you for your patience. We'll be getting started soon.
Let's try that again. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Glad that you're here. This is just a little pre-show thing to let you know how things roll here on the Thursday night Dawn White concerts on Zoom. So, the way we do this, and if you're in the Zoom part of this show, I know we have lots of people over on YouTube watching. Hello to them too. But those of you that are here with us in the interactive part, we'd like to get as many of you unmuted as we could because if we can manage that, it's more interactive. I can hear the laughter and all of that. So, if you're new to Zoom, there's a couple things you need to know. One is that any sound that you make, if you have your microphone unmuted, if we unmute you, everybody can hear it. You know, a bag of chips opening is as loud as me talking. So if you are in a quiet space and you think that space is going to be quiet for the, the duration of the concert, which means no phones are going to ring, no kids are going to cry, dog's not going to bark, you're in a room with the window closed, and I like that. If you think you're in a pretty quiet place, then don't forget, we'll monitor you. If it gets noisy, we'll be able to shut you off and on over there. But we'd like to get you unmuted. So if you would raise your hand, and the way we do that in Zoom is down the bottom of your screen. There's a participants icon. It looks like two little persons there. And when you click on that, it should open up a window that shows you a blue hand. It's the blue hand of waving. And if you click on that, that means that you're waving your hand or that you're raising your hand. So let's see if we can get as many folks to do that we think is possible. So there you go. There's a few. There you go, Gary. Look at you all. So let's get as much of that as we can so that I can have as many people to flirt with during the concert tonight. And we'll go through this again later. And don't worry, if a sudden noise happens, we can deal with that. But what we're basically doing is sort of vetting people that are telling us that they're in a quiet place. So now that we have that sort of established, I'm going to lay out the night for you. So the way the night's going to lay out is that I'm going to introduce Ellen Munns, who in 1 minute, who's the fantastic human being and the person who runs the Storytelling Arts of Indiana, and she's just a friend to everybody who tells stories in this world. And she's going to talk to you a little bit about the center and the great work that they do and what's coming up. Then she is going to introduce a special guest teller who's going to do a story to start the night off. That person will introduce me. I will do my bit. Then the show will be over. And if you want to hang around after, we always have an after party. And in the after party, you just never know who's going to show up to it. And tonight we're going to have a story circle with some guest tellers telling in that. And that will be after the concert. But if you have a long ride home, down the hallway to the living room or something like that, then you can leave if you want. So without further ado, please let me introduce you just an extraordinary person. I'm so glad to know her, even just a little bit. Please, those of you that are unmuted, nice applause for Ellen Munns.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see you. I'm so pleased you're here tonight joining us for this concert with Don White. In the last few months, like all arts organizations, we've had to redesign many of our programs so that they can go virtual. We're so fortunate that because of the kind of work that we do, we're able to do it pretty easily. But I'm very aware of the fact that theaters and dance companies, they have a much bigger challenge in going virtual. So I just want to thank storytelling. And I'm so glad that that's what we do, because we can do it. It's not like being live, but it's the next best thing. Storytelling Arts of Indiana, we promote storytelling 12 months a year. We do concerts like this, sometimes live. We do weekly storytelling at a local children's hospital. We send storytellers to 15-day camps in the summer months. We host the Indie Story Slam. We host, as I recall, storytelling guilds and so many other things. And we have 2 events coming up next month that I'd like to tell you about. On July 8th, Bill Harley will be sharing stories and songs for us. And on July 15th, we'll be hosting an Indie Story Slam. And if you would like to find out more about those events and storytelling arts, please check out our website at storytellingarts.org. And now I would like to introduce you to one of our own Indiana storytellers, Sally Perkins. Sally actually began her storytelling career telling stories at the local hospital. She received the J.J. Renault grant from the National Storytelling Network. She has received several commissions, including developing the story about John Dillinger. And currently, she is touring, or should I say, trying to tour her newest story, Digging in Their Feet. It's a story about women's battle for the right to vote. Please help me welcome Sally Perkins.
It works, Dawn. They're here. Well, this tale from ancient China is one that you very well may be familiar with. But over the last few months, since the pandemic hit us in March, I find that this is the one story that comes to my mind time and time again. One day, a farmer's horse escaped from the barn, jumped over the pasture fence, and ran off into the fields. Try as he might, the farmer simply couldn't catch the horse. The farmer's neighbor saw what had happened. He came running over and said, "Oh, how bad for you, my friend. Why now you have no horse to haul your wood or your cart? Oh." The farmer looked off at the trail of dust left by the horse and said, "I don't know whether it's bad or whether it's good." Well, the next day, that horse came back and brought with him a beautiful wild mare, a mate. The farmer carefully secured both horses in the barn. That afternoon, the neighbor was walking by. When he saw the two horses, he said, "Oh, how good for you, my friend. Why, now you have two horses rather than one. What prosperity! Terrific!" The farmer looked over the manes of the horses and said, "I don't know whether it's bad or whether it's good." The next day, the farmer's son came out to tame that wild horse. He threw a saddle over her back, then hoisted himself up onto the horse. They rode around the pasture, but she was a wild horse indeed. She lifted herself up onto her hindquarters, knocking the farmer's son onto the ground, then trampled on his legs, crushing them in multiple places. The farmer ran out and lifted up his boy. His neighbor, too, saw the accident. He came running over and said, "Oh, how bad for you, my friend. Oh, the sorrow you must feel." The farmer looked down at his boy with a tear in his eye and said, "I don't know whether it's bad or whether it's good." Within the year, the country went to war. All of the young men were drafted to serve. And when the day came for them to report for duty, the farmer stood on the side of the road and watched as row upon row upon row of able-bodied young men headed off to war. Sitting on the ground beside him was his son. Standing to his side was his neighbor, tears streaming down his cheeks as he waved goodbye to his own two sons and said, "Oh, my friend, how good for you. Why, your son is here, safe at home with you." The farmer smiled down at his son and said, "I don't know whether it's bad or whether it's good." This is a story that to this day has no end. Take from it what you will, my friends. You know, Thank you.
Woo! All right. Awesome. Thank you.
I have had the pleasure of being in Don White's audiences a number of times. And I have come to realize that his stories and songs embody the wisdom of that farmer. He takes us to the sweet and the bitter of life, reminding us that if we can have a perspective like that farmer, that somehow it might all be just a little bit better. So will you please join me in welcoming a performance by Don White?
Woo!
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was fantastic. I was so glad, and she will be back at our song circle toward the end, at the end of the concert. So I can't wait to hear more from our fantastic opening performer, our opening teller. So here we go. Let's just start with this here. Father's Day was just the other day. Let me do a couple of parenting things. This is a song that I wrote because I have been married for 41 years. Congratulate me, those who are unmuted. Come on.
Amazing.
This is a song that I wrote after my son went to college and my wife realized that there wasn't going to be any buffer between us anymore. It was a very difficult moment for Mrs. White, and she's so happy that I gather people on Zoom and play it to groups of strangers. Rascal is the dog, he ain't too bright. Me and Rascal were sitting on the couch last night when my woman come in and she started to cry. She looked at us with such terror in her eyes. She said, I have raised these children for 18 years while you, Don White, have done nothing. And now they're growing up and they're moving out of here, and my big reward for all that I've been through is this dog as dumb as mud. And you? Oh, yippee-yahoo. Rascal looked at me in disbelief. He said, she can't be talking about you and me. She's got us to spend the rest of her whole life with. Would you please tell her how incredibly lucky she is? And I said, who's gonna love you any better than this? We'll wake you up every morning with big wet kisses. When we hear the police sirens in your neighborhood, we throw our heads up in the air and we howl for you. Ow! I'm being hauled at by my computer. It's so weird, and that's cool. You gotta admit, that's pretty cool. You know, I don't believe we had succeeded in convincing her of the outrageous good fortune that had befallen her. In fact, instead of looking happy as she could be, she looked a little bit, well, you know, suicidal to me. But hey, kids go to college, kids move away, but dogs and husbands, that's who stays. To you it seems like a big trick of fate, but me and Rascal don't see it that way. We're thinking, ain't we cuddly, ain't we cute? We're both real funny, both real true. There's another thing about us that is very cool. If you scratch us on our belly, our left leg moves. And you gotta admit that's cool. Ow! Ow! I think I'm scaring some of you. Okay, so maybe we ain't that smart. We're a couple of mutts with a lot of heart. But no one could ever love you better or give you more loyalty than this dog as dumb as mud, than this dog as dumb as mud, than this dog as dumb as mud. And me. How lucky can one girl be? She's got a dog like you and a man like me. We'll be together well into this next century. Put that knife down, baby. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to tell you a story now, and those of you that are just came in, I want to just give you just a little idea of how you can be unmuted like the rest of the folks here. So down in the participants window, see the two little people down the bottom there? If you click on that, it opens up a little thing, and it shows you a blue hand, and if you see the blue hand, that means you raise your hand with that thing, and then we know that you feel like you're in a quiet place, and we can unmute you, and you can participate in all the trouble that we're having, causing trouble over here tonight. So let me tell you a story. I have a long relationship with exhaustion. Exhaustion and I have a long and intimate relationship, and he knows how to come into my life and make me miserable, and I know that he enjoys doing it. And so I've always had a day job, worked very hard in my day job. Construction, installing security systems was my day job. In security systems, I live in a tough town in Massachusetts called Lynn, Massachusetts, kind of a factory town. So me being an alarm installer for all of those years, I always said was a public service. I was really, honestly, just trying to keep my friends out of other people's houses. So, my daughter's bedroom, which I am in right now, I mean, she doesn't live here anymore, so I took this place over. She, before the car that was carrying her and her stuff turned the corner, this became my room right here. And but when she was in it, there was no door on her bedroom. I didn't have any money, so I just put like a folding door up there, like a accordion door, and it gave her some privacy, but it denied her one of the key ingredients of a complete adolescence, a door that slams. It gave her a little bit of privacy, but it was unslammable. But what I'm saying is, my bedroom was right there. The bedroom where my wife, myself, and exhaustion sleep is right over there. So sound would travel between these two rooms when she was a teenager. So one day, it was 11 o'clock at night. I had worked 16 hours installing security systems, crawling through attics, breathing asbestos and fiberglass, and I was dirty and just rotten. I came home and took a shower and dragged one leg across the hallway here and went to bed, and I was the kind of tired that makes you want to cry. Like, exhaustion was beating me about the head and shoulders. I could hear the 5 a.m. setting on my alarm clock actually taunting me. I'm gonna ring as soon as you close your eyes, big guy. And so I just crawled into bed over there, and I just laid there trying to get a morsel of sleep, just a little sleep. I was desperate for sleep. My daughter was in this room here, and she was on the phone with her best friend. She was 15 years old, and she was in here laughing with shrieks and wails of teenage laughter. Now, I understand laughter a little bit. There's a lot of different kinds of it. Some has a little tension in it. Some is more relaxed. Some is from recognition. But the laughter of a 15-year-old girl on the phone with her best friend is a sound that is not like any other sound on earth. And I'm lying in bed, and I'm just needing some sleep. I was so tired. The kind of tired where I just wanted to curl up in a puddle outside and cry a little bit, right? So I decide that I have to have some quiet. So I start going through in my mind the available dad identities that I might present over here in the doorway to my inconsiderate daughter and try to get some quiet. So the first dad incarnation that comes to mind is dad number one. Dad number one is the blusterer. He's the guy that likes to yell, that he believes that yelling is the way to get what he wants. And so I picture in my mind what would happen if I manifest dad number one and I bring him into the doorway here with my daughter on the phone. And what would happen would be I would yell. I would say, I am trying to get some sleep here. You don't care that I have to get up at 5 in the morning. Why should you? You'll get to sleep till noon. It would never even occur to you that other people might be living in this house. And then I would raise my dictatorial muscle and point and say, hang up that phone right now. And then, boys and girls, There would be quiet. Quiet. Quiet anger, quiet resentment, and quiet plotting of revenge. You see, dad number one gets much more quiet than he bargained for. That's because he's 100% bluster and 0% circumspection. His goal is, his method is to win the battle at the expense of the war. He's a pawn of exhaustion and destined to spend his waking hours in an endless cycle of explosive bravado, followed by the need to apologize for it. So I decide maybe dad number one is not the guy for this job, and then I conjure up dad number two. And I start thinking about him. Dad number two is still motivated by exhaustion, but he lacks the will to fight. Instead, he's a pleader. That's right. His method is to look as pitiful as possible and to speak in a defeated monotone. It'll be like this. Ariel, that's my daughter's name. Ariel, honey, I'm really tired. I have to get some sleep. If you love me even just a little bit, please, I beg of you, go downstairs and talk on the phone downstairs. Now, although dad number two is sad and, weak, at least if he gets the job done, at least if I bring him into the situation, he'll get the job done in a manner that I won't have to apologize for later. So I decide dad number two is the man for the job. So I conjure up my defeated monotone and I roll it around in my mouth, and I'm just getting ready to get out of bed and come here and address the situation when a hitherto unknown door in my mind opens up and out walks dad number three. He speaks. He says dad number one is mean and dad number two is sad. He goes, the problem here is not with the sounds in this house, it's with the way that you are choosing to hear them. And I think to myself, great, dad number three is a philosopher. I say, is this going to take long? I really need to get some sleep here. He tells me to be quiet, and he continues talking. He said, let's take a look at what we actually have here. Don White. That's right. My imaginary dads use my full name when they talk to me. Let's take a look at what we are actually dealing with here, Don White. You are about to take action that will curtail the sounds of laughter in your home. Is this really what you want? Don't you know that the sounds of that happen in a home are part and parcel of the memories that are created there, and that quiet is what happens in a home when you are alone in it? Be careful how much of this you wish for, he says. And then he says it again. The problem here is not with the sounds in this house. It's with the way you are choosing. You are choosing to hear them. And then, man, I got to tell you, then I get it. I don't just get it a little bit. I get it completely. I get it in the center of my solar plexus. It's like a great big white light of complete understanding washes over me. And I ask myself this question. What kind of a father can't go to sleep to the sound of his daughter laughing? What kind of a father can't go to sleep to the sound of his daughter laughing? And then instantly, as if the asking of the question initiated the metamorphosis, all the sounds coming from her room are transformed. They're transformed. They become music. They become summer rain. I lie back and let them wash over me. All the pores in my body open up and absorb them. And I drink in the miracle of my daughter's teenage laughter. It is magic. It is giddy. It is a sound so complete that it is as if all of her molecules are laughing. There's no distinction between my daughter, the young adult, and laughter itself. It is all one glorious symphony, light and lovely. And she sings me to sleep with laughter. And I dream Oh man, I dreamed the dreams of a satisfied man. My dreams that night were full of music and small birds balancing on delicate breaths of wind. And when I awoke, I wasn't just refreshed or renewed, I was reborn. I was a new man. And when I opened my eyes, I knew that exhaustion was gone and would not return until the day had wrestled from me my zest. And I lied in bed right over there, 6 steps from where I am right now, and I looked at the ceiling and I thought about the home that I was raised in. And I wondered if I had the wherewithal or the inclination to count them. If the laughing memories would outnumber the yelling ones. I got out of bed, walked over here to the doorway. Her bed was right here. I gazed in upon her sleeping figure, beautiful and at peace. And I whistled a line from her favorite pop song at the time. I walked down the hallway, out to my work van, and I drove off to begin my day. That's my story.
Thanks, Don. That's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Sarah. It's good to hear you, girl. Sarah from California.
Love you, honey.
Oh man, so it's not the same when you're not here, Sarah. Thank you for coming. All right, this is the last sort of thing here. I'll throw this one out to the dads and everybody here, and then we'll move on. An old wife and a husband. They had a shiny little kid. When that kid turned 16, you won't believe what he did. He smoked a lot of marijuana. He did some other things too. He told parents he was gonna drop out of school. Father pounded on the table. The mother hollered and she screamed. They ran him down to the doctor. Doctor, what does this mean? He put them all on Prozac right then and right there. He said, you'll still have your problems, but now you just won't care. He prescribed a little therapy, some supplementary drugs, but he didn't write a script out for a little more love. Just a little more love. What the heck could it hurt? It might not fix nothing, at least it won't make things worse. But when you're looking at your lifetime from the end, when you are done, you know it might look a little better. See a little more love. I know a wife and a husband, and they had a shiny little kid. When that kid turned 16, you won't believe what she did. She said, Mom, I'm sleeping over Susan's. That was just a big lie. What she really was doing was staying out all night. And when her parents found out, they cried boo-hoo-hoo. And then they called the radio talk show. They asked him, what should we do? He said, send her off to boot camp. That was his advice. It was good for his ratings, but it wasn't very nice. Just a little more love. What the heck could it hurt? It might not fix nothing. At least it won't make things worse. When you're looking at your lifetime from the end, when you are done, you know it might look a little better. See a little more love. I can see that you're a tough guy. You won't be pushed around. You're not gonna take it. You're good at putting your foot down. You might get killed by lightning, might get hit by a truck. But if you're not that lucky, you might just wind up spending years in a rest home without a whole lot to do. But look back on what you did with the time God gave you. Just a little more love. What the heck could it hurt? It might not fix nothing. At least it won't make things worse. when you're looking at your lifetime from the end. When you are done, you know it might look a little better. Big, rough, tough guy to see a little more love. Might look a little better. See a little more love.
Thank you, Don.
You're welcome, Sarah.
You done?
You guys are awesome. The best little noises coming out of my computer all week. That's right. That's what you are. All right. So, continuing with that theme, looking at things from the end, let me tell you this story. I moved to Maine in the 70s. I moved to Maine because I wanted to become famous. It was the first in a series of really interesting business decisions on my part. It was like moving to the moon to become famous. There was no work, no money. So prior to that, I had hitchhiked. My wife and I were young, in our early 20s, and we had hitchhiked for 3 years. Do you believe that? You're looking at a person who hitchhiked for 3 years of his life. When I say that, I feel like the last guy who had a job at the buggy whip factory. The horseless carriage came, and I just took my last buggy whip and closed the door and went home. That's what I feel like when I say I hitchhiked for 3 years, but I did. And then when we moved to Maine, I had no marketable skills. None. I didn't know how to do anything. I was an excellent hitchhiker. That didn't really jump off the resume. So the people who lived there, they didn't like us. They were they called us flatlanders. Is that a term you're familiar with if you're not from the New England? It means you ain't from here and you're never going to be from here. So they just tortured us with that. And at first I thought they hated us, but then eventually I think we just became entertainment for them. Like I think they had like a pool going, like who's got February 3rd for the date where these two hippies freeze to death in that house, The guy that lived across the street from me, his name was Wilbur. And he tortured us about not being from there, but he was nice to us too. Like I don't know if it's a Maine thing or a country thing, but I saw it a lot up there where they're merciless with you and making sure that you know that you are not from here and you're never going to be from here. But they also will be kind to you, maybe because it's so cold up there, they just don't want, they're good at not letting people die. So he ran a hose through the culvert so that we could have running water. The house that we lived in had no running water and a 2-seater outhouse. That's right. I lived in a house with a 2-seater outhouse. You should have seen how proud my parents were of me when they came up to visit. My dad would say to me, like, when you were younger, I remember dropping you on your head, and I think this is what the result is of it. And so he ran the hose under there so we could have running water when it wasn't frozen, which was, I think that year was like 5 weeks or something like that, when it wasn't ice coming through the faucet there. But our son was born in that house. Our first son, 1980. He was born in a house with no running water, no central heating, no plumbing, and he was born there. We had a midwife come. So prenatal care, postnatal care, like a month prenatal, a month postnatal, and the actual delivery in the house with a technician. Total price $400. $400.
Claps to that.
If you pick up the phone now and call your doctor and talk to him for 10 minutes, it'll cost $400, won't it? So,
Yeah.
so I had like a Walmart baby. That's the way I look at it. So we brought him over to Wilbur. Because we were cocky now. We said, Wilbur, you can say what you want about us, but this is a Mainer. He was born in that house in the state of Maine. And this is what he said to me. And those of you that with a sense of humor, I hope you appreciate how funny this is. This is maybe one of the funniest / meanest things I've ever heard in my life. But, I've never forgotten it. So he said, Wilbur, this kid was born in Maine. He's a Mainer. And he said, well, if your cat crawls in the oven and has kittens, you don't call them biscuits now, do you? I'm like, Wilbur, that hurt. Like, that's some cold-blooded stuff right there, Wilbur. So I finally got a job. I got a job in a nursing home, and it turned out to be one of the most important things that ever happened to me in my life. So now let me just tell you, at that point in my life, I had this new baby, no money, no prospects, no trade, no skill. I couldn't picture how I was going to be able to support this family, and I was terrified. I would wake up in the morning and I would just feel my heart racing with the terror of being sure that I was going to fail at being an adult and at been taking care of this family. And I now my life has played out, and I can see how it played out. So when I see young people who are stepping into the world, I can see it in their eyes, the uncertainty, and it's a terror. It's a terror. And so I got this job, coincidentally, at a nursing home. So here I am trying to figure out what kind of man I'm going to be and how to function in the world. I'm at the beginning of my adult life, and I'm surrounded by people whose lives are ending, whose stories are ending. And I was absorbing it. I was just watching every day. Like, if you live a certain kind of life, this is what it looks like at the end. If you live this kind of life, this is what it looks like at the end. And I was just drinking it all in at this pivotal time in my life, trying to figure out how to make my way in the world. And there was a man there, I'll never forget him. His name was Mr. Bishop. And to this day, I'm 63 years old. He is the saddest human being I've ever met. Just picture how many sad people I've seen in 63 years, right? I've seen a ton of them, right? He is still leagues above every other sad person that I met. And it's interesting why. So he wasn't an evil person. He didn't kill anybody. Nothing like that. He just wasn't kind. He wasn't a giving, kind person. And he was only going from the bed to the ground. Everything that he had done had been done, and he was looking back at it. And the reason why he was so sad was because he was smart enough to realize that everything he did in his life was going to give him no comfort in at this point in his life. Like he went to work, he yelled at his wife, he had a few beers, he went hunting, he pushed people out of the way to get his job. He was just that guy. Not a murderer, not that, but not kind. But the fact that he was smart enough to know when it was too late to change it, that everything he did in his life was giving him no peace, made him, in my opinion, Shakespearean tragic. He was like Macbeth tragic to me, in my mind, right? And I hated going in his room. It was the saddest place I had ever been. I just would go and clean the trash. There was like a cloud over him all the time, right? On the other side of the building was Maddie Campbell. Maddie Campbell was born she was 89 years old in 1978, so she was born in the 1890s. And in her room, the sun was always shining. At first I thought she had a southern exposure, but it wasn't. It was coming from her, because her life was just, when she looked back at it, it was just kindness after generosity after generosity, and it made perfect sense to her, and she just glowed. She didn't need to change anything when she looked back at her life. And I didn't know how to become like her and how not to become like Mr. Bishop, but I was hoping I could figure it out and at the end have the kind of peace that Maddie Campbell had. And she adopted me. She adopted me. I would finish my work in like 2 hours, janitor. And I would pull a chair up beside her, and she would just teach me things from this amazing life that she had. Her life was decade upon decade of just generosity. And somebody's sick down the road, let's put some soup on a buckboard and drive it down there a mile in the snow, make sure that they're well fed and the fire is good, and stay overnight if they're sick. Her whole life looked like that. And she adopted me, and she would listen to my complaints about life. I would complain about how hard my life was, which I look back on that now, and I'm just, I'm not happy about that. Like I was complaining about how hard my life was to a woman who didn't see a combustion engine till she was 35 years old probably, and lived in the most frozen wasteland in the whole United States, right? Her survival for the first 40 years of her life depended on the availability of moose meat and the kindness of strangers. But here I am complaining about having to hitchhike down Route 220 to get to work, right? But I did it, and she would just listen. You know how the elderly will listen sometimes with their eyes closed and their head rolled back? She would just listen to me complain, and then she would open one eye like that and say, "Are you sure you're being honest with yourself?" And I would muster some sort of like feeble response, and then she would close her eyes and go think about that. I'm tired, come back tomorrow. And she was funny, like really funny. One time she handed me a piece of paper. I go, "What's this, Maddie?" I opened it up. She goes, "This is my epitaph." And I opened it up and it said, "Here lies Maddie. She had a million ills. It wasn't those that killed her. It was the 500,000 pills." And she would just teach me these things from her life, from this amazing life. And little by little, the racing in my heart started to slow down a little bit, and I began to think that maybe even somebody like me with no skills, and I wasn't making great decisions at that point in my life, maybe somebody like me might possibly be able to manifest a life that he could be proud of at the end. And so before I wrap this story up, get to the end of it, I want to just give you an example of how she taught me one thing that she taught me. So she had a style. And so I was complaining to her about I had to borrow money from my parents to pay my rent. I didn't have any money, and I needed $400. And I knew they would give it to me, but I was complaining to her like, I don't want people to help me. I want to be able to do this on my own, Maddie. I don't want to be somebody always asking for help. And she said to me, "How do you feel when somebody you love is in trouble and you're able to help them?" I go, "That's different." I like that feeling. She goes, "Do you love it?" I go, "Yeah, I love it." And then she said, "Well, why would you deny these people who love you this feeling that you just told me you love so much?" And I was 20 years old, and I could feel my head pop. Like I could feel synapses being created to accommodate a new piece of information that I promise you I wouldn't have come upon on my own till I was 50 years old, right? And she just dished it off to me little by little, these little pieces of wisdom, then would close her eyes and wave me off like that. And I loved her. It would be hard to find somebody in 1978 with that kind of wisdom, but now it would be impossible. The wisdom that she, well, I mean it. It's the wisdom that she acquired was from a time that's gone. She acquired this wisdom that she had in 1890, 1910, 1920, 1930, right? So that's gone. The people who lived that when the world was like that are gone. You can't get anything from them. And I always thought that I was the recipient, that I was the benefactor of all of this. But now that I'm older, I think it must have meant something to her. Like to be on the way out, nobody visited her. I was the only person that ever talked to her. And to be able to find somebody who wanted this wisdom at the beginning of their lives, I'm sure it meant something to her. So then Maddie Campbell died. She died, and I'm telling you, it was a big loss for me. I was heartbroken. I was just wrecked over it. And I knew that I had to figure this stuff out on my own, and nobody was going to wave me off and tell me to think about it no more. I had to put on my big boy pants and figure this life out for myself. And that night, I had a dream. And Maddie was in the dream. I walked up to her. She was standing there, and she had her hands like this, cupped. And when I walked over to her, she opened her hands up. And inside of her hands were thousands and thousands of sparkling diamonds. And I knew it at 20 years old, and I knew it in the middle of this dream. I knew exactly what was happening, what it meant, what she was saying. I knew the whole thing. And every moment in your life where you do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, not because you want something back, every moment where you do the kind thing, all of those moments like that, they get compressed into diamonds. And Maddie Campbell's last gift to me was to show me the thousands and thousands of sparkling moments of a life well lived. And she wasn't showing them to me to show me how many there were. She was showing them to me so that I could see the look of peace on her face at the end of her life as she gazed upon this life of beautiful, sparkling, selfless, kind moments. And I have never lost that in my whole life. I haven't always been able to be a good example of it, but I've always aspired to it, to be the person at the end, you know. And so before the dream was over, she called me over and said in this ear right here, and I'm going to say it to all of you, wherever you are, across the country, in different little corners of Zoom and YouTube. I'm going to let Maddie Campbell talk to you. She'd be 130 years old now, and this is my gift to her, to let her speak to all of you right now, because this was the last thing that she said in this dream, and I've never forgotten it. She said, in the end, the person with the most diamonds wins.
All right, Maddie.
Go, Maddie.
That's right.
All right, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to sing a song here, and then we're going to take a break. It's not an intermission. It's just a 2-minute break. And we're going to put the Venmo and the donation stuff up here so that if you'd like to help out the Storytelling Arts Center of Indiana, or, you know, and make sure that the White family has beans and rice and ramen noodles for another week or so, you can do that. But I'm not going to be gone long, and then I will come back and play, you know, till probably 20 past or something like that. So thank you for being here so far. So let's get Brandon to do that and put that screen up there, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. I forgot. I have to sing the song first. There is a little girl with pretty curls. She's about 5 years old. She is waiting at the gate for her dad to come home. When he pulls around the corner in his shiny white car, she feels the magic light up in her heart. And he picks her up and he holds her. He says he missed her. He's glad that she is here. As the child lays her head on his shoulder, she whispers these words in his ear. Daddy, I know exactly what love is. Love is real simple and true. Love is this feeling my heart gets when I'm being held close by you. Now she is 20 and there's plenty of love everywhere. She's getting married, so her family and her friends are all there. They've gathered this morning to stand at her side as she waves goodbye to this time in her life. And they each take a moment to hold her and to tell her what she means to them. In a world that seems to keep getting colder, she has been blessed with a warm family and friends. She says, I know exactly what love is. Love is real simple and true. Love is this feeling my heart gets when I'm being held close by you. Now they are older and no one told her it got crazy like this. They're going to night school, they're working jobs too, they're raising 3 kids. The youngest one is crying with a bruise on her knee. She needs attention and she needs sympathy. And when she picks her up and she holds her, that old magic lights up in her heart. And as the child lays her head on her shoulder, she knows exactly why they're working so hard. Little girl, I know exactly what love is. Love is real simple and true. Love is this feeling my heart gets when I'm being held close by you. Now they are 60 and their history spans 40 odd years. They have buried their parents. Now their grandkids are here. There's something about the way they look in each other's eyes that speaks softly about the meaning of a life. And when he puts his arm out to hold her, it feels so familiar and warm. She thinks love is an expanding endeavor till your last breath from the moment you're born. Now she is 80 and she hates being in this nursing home. Her man's been gone now for a long while and she feels so alone. She closes her eyes and she begins to pray that a little comfort might just come her way. And God lifts her up and he holds her. And she remembers this feeling she has. She is not a woman whose life is almost over. She's a little girl being held by her dad. And God, I know exactly what love is. Love is real simple and true. Love is this feeling my heart gets when I'm being held close by you. And God, love is real simple. Love is real simple. Love is real simple and true. Woo!
Thank you, Don. Beautiful. Whew.
Oh, you said this guy was funny. What the heck was that? All right, now. I'm going to be gone for 2 minutes. I'm going to splash some water on my face. Anybody who's left, I'll play for another 20, 25 minutes, and then we'll see what's happening at the after party. So we'll see you in 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Hey, we didn't lose hardly anybody. All right. Jenny's grandma went to Woodstock in 1969. She keeps her ticket stub and a chunk of mud at her house in a little shrine. She was always the girl in the hippie dress twirling at the shows by the Grateful Dead. If you ask her about it, man, you better sit down, Grandma will talk the ears right off your head. If you get her talking about the Grateful Dead, Summer of Love, or the Kool-Aid acid test. Jenny was always in the glory when she could hear the stories from her grandma's hippie friends about peace and love, taking care of one another, how great it all was back then. And at night she would dream of being on the bus with Keezy, seeing Jimmy in 69. But when she wasn't dreaming, she always had the feeling that somehow she had been born in the wrong time. You know, you should have been 20 in 1969. All those gray-haired hippies say that all the time. But the cool grandchildren of the cool young women who danced in the Woodstock mud are living on the beach of Montezuma, Costa Rica, having all kind of fun singing. There's only 1 minute if you're not living in it, it's never coming back again. I love you, Grandma, but Baba Ram Dass never said, be there then. It is gonna take a big leap of faith if you really want to find your tribe. And those were the first words Jenny heard in a song that she found online. And that summer she drove all the way to Minnesota to the Shangri-La Festival. And there they all were, all the people like her who grew up believing that they were all alone. They said, hey girl, welcome home. Because the cool grandchildren of the cool young women who danced in the Woodstock mud are driving down the road all the way to Minnesota, having all kind of fun singing. Jimmy and Jerry are dead and buried and they're never coming back again. Love you, Grandma, but Baba Ram Dass never said, be there then. Jenny's grandma went to Woodstock back in 1969. Since then she believed there was never gonna be a better time, and that's alright. But if you don't take your big leap of faith and get out there and find your scene, it will pass you by while you are trying to find your grandma's long gone Woodstock memories. Her Woodstock memories. While the cool grandchildren of the cool young women who danced in the Woodstock mud are living on the beach of Montezuma, Costa Rica, having all kind of fun singing. There's only 1 minute if you're not living in it, it's never coming back again. I love you, Grandma, but Baba Ram Dass never said, be there then. Yeah.
Woo! Thanks, Don.
Thanks, Johnny.
Right.
All right.
Very nice.
Thank you. So here we go. This is another story and a song, and then we'll wrap this thing up. I want to thank Ellen, and not just for what she's doing here for us and in this world, but she does a lot for it, and she's a friend to everybody who tells stories in this world, really. And I don't know anybody else quite like her. So if you're still muted, you can applaud for her this way. But the rest of you make some noise.
Woo!
All right, so this is a story about my dad. Father's Day, just a couple days ago. So I want to talk about my dad, Larry White. Larry White was a cigarette smoking, red meat eating, gin rummy playing, bartending, 40 years at the General Electric as a crane man in a rigger, dirt under the fingernails. Manly, manly, man! If I ever brought him to a folk storytelling concert on something called the internet, his molecules wouldn't hold together. He never did one single thing that he was supposed to do in order to live a long time. He just ate red bloody meat and smoked cigarettes with no filter on them and just kept living. He hadn't cracked a sweat since the 50s. He hadn't eaten a vegetable since World War II. He just did whatever he wanted and defied his behavior to kill him. You know, he took a big hunk of red meat and said, I defy you to kill me. I am going to kill you is what's going to happen. And that's the way he lived his life. And he's quite a guy. My dad was Irish and my mother was Greek, so that's a unholy cross-pollination of cultures. And it results in, bad decision-making becoming manifest embodied in children like me. But they did whatever they wanted. They didn't let anybody push them around. My dad had a saying, be yourself, let them deal with it. That was his saying. I feel like I should write that right here. Be yourself, let them deal with it, right there. And so this is kind of a Midwestern show. A lot of people from the Midwest. So I'm from Boston, and so Midwesterners are friendly and polite, and so they're taken aback by us, especially like my parents. Brickyard, Boston, rough and tumble. Our hearts are good, but I know the way I describe it best for you, if you're in my family or if you come to visit us, if we're picking on you, that means we like you. And if we're quiet, you really should leave. So, my dad was that way, a good-hearted guy, but he was also observant. And this is what I want to talk about. My dad made his way without a college education. He just went and he watched what was happening. He paid close attention, and he was a card player and a bartender on his side work, his side jobs, and that made him an observer of people. He knew when trouble was coming. He knew who was lying. When he could see somebody lying, like if you were at a table and he knew somebody was exaggerating the truth, he would zone in on them like a card player and look for a tell. He'd say, oh, when that person lies, they twitch a little, or their voice changes a little, and he said I would take that and I would put it in my ass pocket. That's what he would say. He said I take that tell and I put it in my ass pocket. Ass pocket, for those of you that don't know, is a 1940s term for database. He put it in his database, and 20 years later, 10 years later, he'd be doing business with you and he'd see you twitch or your voice change. He'd be like, this person's lying to me, I gotta be careful. So that's the way he navigated the world, right? So telling you all of that, I want to tell you this story. I went to visit him one day. My mother was out. I was in my 40s, and I was at his house, just me and him. And I was teasing him, like we do. I was picking on him I think it was about his child rearing techniques, like what it was like to be reared by him. And I thought I was within the realm of what we do and get away with because we're from Boston and we tease each other and all that, right? But I wasn't. It made him mad. And I knew it made him mad because he gave me this look. He looked like this. He just, all of a sudden his face went like this, like, I'm telling you, it put a chill through me. And he also did this other thing. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but he rolled his tongue across the inside of his upper lip like this, like. I'm telling you, in my world, that means somebody bigger than you is thinking about the ways they're going to kill you. That's what it means, right? To me, right? So I knew I had crossed the line, and I also knew that he was going to educate me in a surgical manner, and there was nothing I could do about it. He had been studying me for 40 years. He knew every one of my weaknesses. His back pocket was bulging with data on how to educate me, right? He's just waiting for this moment. And he said to me, did you have a bicycle when you were a kid? I go, you know I had a bicycle, you bought it for me. He goes, did you ride around the town on your bicycle with your friends? I go, yes, as a matter of fact, I did. He goes, I'm happy for you. I always wanted a bicycle when I was a kid, but my dad left us when I was 13 years old. I was the oldest in the whole family. I had to go to work. I get up at 3 in the morning, go to Sabanti's Bakery before school, and make cakes and biscuits, and then go after school too. And I was 13 years old. And he goes, and I would see other kids playing on their bikes and laughing, and I always wanted that, but I had to go to work, and I've been working every minute since. He goes, but you had a bike and you rode around with your friends. I'm happy for you. I go, okay. I'm like, okay. And he said, have you ever been cold? I go, I see what you're doing. He goes, have you ever been cold? I'm like, no. He goes, I was cold. My mother used to put the Jell-O next to my bed at night because it was colder in my bedroom than it was in the ice box. He goes, but now I think about it, there's now always been oil in the furnace, and the radiator's always been warm, and you have never been cold one day in your life, and you had a bicycle to ride around on with your friends. I am so happy for you. So I started out 5'8" in this story, right? But now, surgically, he's whittled me down to about the size of a Ken doll, right? One question at a time. I used to be sitting at the kitchen table, but now I'm not big enough to see over the top, so I'm standing on the chair, looking over the tabletop like this, being surgically whittled down. He comes out of the living room. He was standing in the doorway of the living room, and he came into the kitchen. Now the sun had gone down, and it was dark in the kitchen now. So he walks past me over here. He's got his back to me. He's not looking at me, and he opens the refrigerator into this dark room. And the refrigerator light silhouettes him like a religious icon, right? You can almost hear the refrigerator light going, oh, like that, right? And there's his big head looking in at the mayonnaise and everything. And he starts talking to the refrigerator. He's not looking at me. He's talking to the milk. He's going, have you ever been hungry? And I'm like, no, Dad, I've never been hungry. He goes, I was hungry. Man, we ate mayonnaise sandwiches for days. He goes, my mother used the same tea bag for 10 cups of tea. He goes, but you, never hungry, never cold, and you had a bicycle to ride around on with your friends. I am so happy for you. Now, I could see the words coming out of his mouth. They were like sentences. You know, I could see them. And they were wet. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, and they were dripping. And I'm like, he has been he's been marinating these sentences in sarcasm for 35 years, and they're just dripping with it as it comes out of his mouth. It's like you know, they were like coming to me, hit me in the head, and falling on the ground, splashing down there, sarcasm marinated sentences, right? So he comes over now, he's gonna finish me off. And here's the thing. I was, as he was walking toward me, I was just thinking about how smart he was. Like, he could have yelled at me. I'm sure he was thinking of many things he could have called me, inconsiderate, ungrateful, all of that. But he was too smart for that. When you yell at somebody, they can defend themselves against that. If somebody yells at me, I defend myself. I know how to defend myself against being yelled at. I'm not defending myself against the point they're trying to make. I'm defending myself against being yelled at. That's why it's a terribly ineffective way to change somebody's behavior, because the person being yelled at is just thinking, they don't care what your point is. They're saying, stop yelling at me. That's what they're doing. But he didn't do any of that. He just asked me a question, told me how happy he was about my good fortune, and just deconstructed me one thing at a time till at this point, I'm like molecular. You know, you need a microscope to find me, right? Now, what do they say? You have to stick the landing. Now, in this master class on how to change somebody's how to make a master class on how to make sure that somebody never speaks to you the way they just did again, right? That's what this was, a master class in this. He grabbed a package of ham and a package of cheese from the refrigerator, and he came over to me, and he leaned like he was this far from my head. He like leaned in right like this, right? And my dad was a steel worker. He was broad-chested, you know, just a strong man, big guy. And he leaned right in like this, and he said to me, "You can say whatever you want about how I raised you. I'm not afraid of you. I went to war." He goes, "There's nothing you can say to me that's going to hurt me or it's going to make me stop loving you. I'm good with all of it. I'm a full-grown man. You're dealing with a full-grown man here, basically." He goes, "But you need to know something, and I can't believe that you're 40 years old and I have to explain this to you, but I'm going to do it for you, my son." Sarcasm, drip, 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 right? And then he said, "The life that you had, this life that you had, never hungry, never cold, able to have toys and ride around on your bicycle and laugh with your friends and not have to go to work at 13 years old and not stop working till you retire at 65. This life that you had, I'm telling you the truth now, not only did I not have it, but I didn't even know it was possible. It would have been beyond my ability to dream of this life that you're criticizing me for giving you. So now, I'm less than the dust now. I'm totally gone, right? Dismantled, right? And he took the ham and the cheese and he dropped it on the table in front of me. He didn't slam it, that would have been too dramatic. It wouldn't have stuck the landing. He dropped it loud enough to make an impact, but not to show that it was, like that, right? And he went, "Bam! You look hungry. Make a sandwich." And he walked in the living room and sat in his like recliner with this big grin on his face, thinking that's how you do that.
Awesome.
I just have one little piece to add to this. That's really the end of the story. But just thinking about it now, when I was going home, it took me 3 weeks to get home because every step was right, like that, right? I was thinking about him, how much I loved him and how smart he was, and how right he was. And then I was thinking to myself, I was asking myself this question. And I was saying, if the question is, would you trade childhoods with your parents, Dawn, right? If that's the question, and the answer is no, which it is for me, for some people maybe it's yes, but for me the answer is no. So if the question is, would you trade childhoods with your parents, and the answer is no, maybe, Dawn White, it's time for you to quit complaining about how they raised you and get in line like every decent man before you did, going back 100 generations, and do whatever you can do to make it a little bit better for the next group coming along. Ta-da!
You got it. Ham and cheese drop.
So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to end the show now with this song, and then we'll take a minute, just a couple of minutes, if anyone wants to talk to me in the Zoom part. Brandon, if you want, you can throw the Zoom information over there to those guys if they want to come over here. But you can watch from YouTube, and we're going to have a little song circle with some really exciting special guests, I must tell you. But you can go ahead and leave if you want. I think we're good either way. But here we go. And this song calls back a little bit to Maine and to the house that we lived in with no running water. Another true story. I overheard a man complaining how his 401k was not performing quite how he would like it to. As he sipped his double latte and continued to complain, I thought about that day in 1982. We were living in the shack with the outhouse in the back. If I'm not mistaken, you were pregnant too. We thought it might be funny to count up all of our money and discuss all the investing we could do. We pulled our pockets inside out, pulled the cushions off the couch, stuck our fingers way down deep inside, and we emptied out the pockets of the jackets in our closet, but not one single penny did we find. So after the realization our financial situation was not conducive to investment at this time, we decided to invest in what we've always done best. We danced around the kitchen for a while, we do the victory dance. When life is such a mess, we don't know what else to do. We do the victory dance when being penniless became literal to me and you. Well, you can jump off of a building, take a bunch of pills, or you could walk around in a trance. But if you wake up in the morning on the right side of the lawn, go on and do the victory dance. I got fired from the job I had been working at for 20 years faithfully. Oh dear, oh God, oh my, how will I ever survive without a corporation taking care of me? I was so stressed out for weeks I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I didn't think that things would ever turn my way. And then a couple months went by, I began to realize, man, I really hated working at that place. So I started working for myself, improved my mental health. Now I'm happier than I've ever been before. Oh dear, oh my, oh God, I should have quit that stupid job 19 years ago. I do the victory dance when my life forces me to go out on my own. And then I just declare victory and I march my army home. There are things you can't control, things you'll never know. Some things are always left to chance. If you're a clerk or you're a farmer, work from home in your pajamas, man, there's a lot of people doing that right now. If your health is getting worse, but you can still flirt with the nurse. If the world has gone to hell and you cannot find Purell. If you're stuck in a tiny house with your children and your spouse. If they canceled all your shows and you got nowhere to go and now you're sitting in a room playing songs on Zoom. And across the top are little squares. And all your friends are trapped inside of there. And you say to your friends entrapped in the squares, give me a, are you guys all okay in there? You know, being trapped in a square on a computer screen is just a metaphor for quarantine. If you lose your money, but you still got your honey. If you lose your honey, but you still got some money. If you find it hard to cope because your kids are all on dope, don't surrender yet. Try not to forget in this game of life we're in. In this game of life we're in. In this game of life that we are in. If you don't die, you win. Ta-da! All right, so that is officially the end of this program. Let's drop, Brandon, drop everybody's hands from being raised over there. If anybody wants to say just a couple of minutes, just want to talk to me a little bit, we'll just raise your hands back up there. And if you got something to say, go ahead and do that. Happy to talk to you for a few minutes before we start the song circle. So if not, we'll just jump right over there. How's that sound? I've already done enough talking, haven't I?
No, you're
right. All right, so let's just do that. So I want to, before we bring our special guests out, I want to start the song circle with our special guest that you already saw, and that's Sally. So Sally, are you ready to tell us another story? Let's make sure that you're unmuted. There you go.
Unmuted. I am.
Hi.
Thank you. Oh, with all this great, see, I told you, didn't I, that Don White was like the farmer in the story? Am I so right? So I've been telling a lot of stories to kids on Zoom over the last few months. And here's one that I love to tell to the slightly older kids. There's a bit of a riddle in it. And you're all smarty pants adults, so you'll probably figure out the riddle. I always stop the story and let the kids figure it out, but we'll see when we get to that part of this story. There was a poor old blind woman who lived with her son and his wife in a tiny little hut. They had nothing. But every day, that poor old blind woman wobbled her way to the chapel where she knelt down to say her prayers. Now, every day when she prayed, she simply gave thanks. She never asked for anything. One day, as she was saying those prayers, offering her thanks, an angel appeared to her. And the angel said to her, "Oh, you poor blind woman, why, you're so faithful to come here every day. You just give thanks. You never ask for a thing. I would like to grant you one wish, just one thing, anything you wish." The poor old blind woman thought, but she couldn't think of a thing to wish for. So the angel sent her home, told her to think about it for the day, and then when she came back the next day to say her prayers, the angel promised to reappear to her. The poor old blind woman wobbled her way home. When she got home, she told her son about the angel. And she asked her son what he thought she should wish for. Her son said, "Oh, Mama, of course, you should wish for wealth. This is our chance to have some money finally." The poor old woman lifted her head and thought, "Oh, yes, yes, that would be so good indeed." And yet she wasn't quite sure. So then she went to her daughter-in-law. She asked her daughter-in-law what she should wish for. Her daughter-in-law said, "Oh, Mama, of course, you should wish for grandchildren." Because you see, the daughter-in-law and son had been unable to conceive. The poor old blind woman thought and said, "Oh, yes, grandchildren, oh." And yet she wasn't sure. So then she went across the path to the hut of an old friend of hers. She told the old friend about the angel and asked the old friend what she should wish for. The old friend said, "Why, you fool, of course, this is your chance to see. You should wish for your sight." The poor old blind woman lifted up her head and smiled. "Oh, yes, to be able to see again. Oh, yes." But still she wasn't sure. Well, the next day came. She wobbled her way, as she always did, to the chapel. She knelt down to say her prayers, and the angel appeared to her, asked her what she wanted to wish for. The poor old blind woman thought and thought for a long time in silence. Okay, pause. What do you think she wished for? What should she wish for? Are you off mute? Those of you who are off mute?
I wish that everyone else would be as content as she was.
Oh, that's lovely. That everybody is content as she was. Yeah. I will tell you. She, after a long pause, lifted her head and said, "I wish to see my grandchildren eating off of plates made of gold."
Nice.
The angel said, "You are a wise old woman. You have fooled me, but your wish will be granted."
Oh.
And that is how the poor old blind woman got 3 wishes in one.
Woo!
Bravo. Bravo.
Woo!
Great.
Nice.
That was fantastic, Sally. Beautifully
Yeah.
delivered. Nicely done. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so now I'm going to introduce the first of our two secret special guests who've been lurking here with secret names. So I think this guy's name is Park Bench, but his real name is Bill Harley. And so we're going to get Bill Harley to come out and talk to us about his upcoming show here uh, at uh, online, I guess, with Indiana, and maybe he'll sing a song or play a tune or tell us a story. This is one of the great storytellers and a dear friend to me and to everybody. Very generous of spirit and just somebody I'm just honored to know. So here, how about Bill Harley?
Woo!
Hey guys.
Hi.
Well, here we are at home. I was going to clean up, but you can't see the floor, so the resolution isn't that high, so I guess we're going to get to it. Yeah, I'm going to do a show for Storytelling Arts on the 8th of July. I'm going to tell some Indianapolis stories because I grew up there, as you may know. Some of you may not know this, but if I had stayed in Indianapolis, Ellen Munns and I would have been in the same year at North Central High School. So I'll be looking forward. So I'm not going to talk about North Central because I wasn't there. What else? Oh, the other thing I guess I should tell you, marketing genius that I am, is that I'm doing free shows on Facebook Live twice a week. It's like family shows at 1 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'll be doing those for a couple more weeks. I've been doing them for 4 months. It's been a test of me. I'm into my deep tracks now. I'm going to sing a song for you. I wrote this song a couple years ago, and I was thinking about this while I was listening to Don tell in his bedroom. Don? Yes, in his boudoir.
In my daughter's old bedroom.
His boudoir. That a number of years ago, I've got a friend who started a bakery in the Providence area, and I walked into a store. At that time, it was Bread and Circus, and then Bread and Circus got bought by Whole Foods, and then Whole Foods got, well, you can see how that goes. But anyway, she had started a bakery, and she was selling the bread to this grocery, and she had a couple kids. And I said, "Hey, Carrie, how you doing?" She said, "Great." She said, "I was thinking about you." I said, "Yeah." She said, "You're just like me." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "My kids are listening to your stories." She said, "My parents were both anthropologists and they studied like how bread was made, but I make bread just like you tell stories, and I have to make bread every day, and you have to tell stories every day." I said, "You're right." She said, "It's just a little thing, but you have to have it." And I was thinking while we're sitting here all separated from each other, but still watching together, that somehow the entire entertainment world has been forced back towards us, which is all these musicians or storytellers or actors one at a time telling a story to a bunch of people circled around some digital fire. So I wrote this song. I was invited to a festival, a big outdoor festival a couple years ago, and they wanted me to tell stories and do performances for kids. They said, "We want to have a great kid stage." And I'm always a little bit leery about that because the truth is children's stages and storytelling stages are usually shunted off to the side, and they think it's a good idea, but it's a little thing. And I got there, and that's what it was. It was a little thing, and the mics didn't work that well, and people couldn't find the stage. And I thought to myself, this is where I live. This is where I live. 30 people have found me somehow. And that night, while I was sitting in the audience watching 9,000 people listening to a big band, fooled again, I wrote the chorus to this song on my phone. And then it's kind of turned into seems very appropriate for what we're going through, too. That little things make big things. big things make a difference. So I know that little things do too. So I take care of little things because they make a difference. I just do what I can do. Here's a drop of rain falling to the ground. Drops turn to a trickle, then a stream. Stream turns to a river that flows into an ocean. You never know what just might be. 'Cause little things make big things make a difference. So I know that little things do too. So I take care of little things because they make a difference. I just do what I can do. And here's your part. You can do it at home. Na 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 na. Na, that's na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Are you gonna do a harmony up above? It goes na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Or you can harmonize with yourself. If no, you can't. Far off in the sky, a star is being born. A flower opens right beside your door. Nothing comes from nothing. Everything starts somewhere. No one knows for sure just what's in store. And ain't that the truth? One thing that I want you to know, I will stand beside you while you grow. While you grow. Here comes your part. Do you remember all the words? Na 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 na. Okay, listen to this. One voice is one voice, one more than no voice, one voice more than no voice at all. But one voice and one voice is one more than one voice, and every big thing out there started small. Who knew? 'Cause little things make big things make a difference. So I know that little things do too. Not take care of little things because they make a difference. I just do what I can. I just do what I can. I just do what I can do. Last chance. Do you remember the words? I think you do. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
That was awesome, Bill. Come on, that was great. Wow. How come I never heard that before? Is it new?
I'm keeping. That's kind of new. I don't like to show you everything, Don. You know.
I know. So, Bill, Harley, and I, and Bill Lev have done many shows together in this show called Father's Days, and we did it for Ellen in Indiana and did it a lot of times. And I have to say, Bill, if people could ever be in the car with us, me, you, and Bill Lev, they would like it better than the show, I think. Do you think?
You're so funny in the car. Yeah.
It doesn't translate always onto the show, but in the car, it's pretty good. Anytime that we get to do that show together, I'm always so excited because I just love hanging around with you guys. Are so talented, and been a great honor to be with you. And that tune really did it for me, Bill. That was really good, man. Number one, classy, good, well put together, make my heart feel good. How about another big round of applause for Bill Harley?
Thanks, John. Thank you. It's great to
Very
be
nice.
with you too. Yeah, it really is. It's great to see you. And all you other folks too, I can see up here.
All right, so now I have to bring our other special guest up. He's coming to us from Minnesota. He's cleverly disguised as Barry the Hatchet here, but it's really Kevin Kling, one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, and just perhaps I don't know what to say about him except that anytime I get to hear him or see him, I am thrilled to death, and the fact that he's here is just making me I feel like I'm like a little starstruck here. So again, Kevin Kling, how about that?
Thanks, Don. Way to go, you guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Way to go, y'all. This is great. I'm thinking what Bill was saying about being on the internet, and for a Minnesotan, it's kind of not that different than live performing, especially up north. We're a silent, we're a kind of quiet group. We're like angst is a noun and a verb and a way of life. And then I was thinking, this is true. You know, every culture has a word for beloved. Like, what is your beloved? The word in Finnish actually translates to the one I hate less than the others. So this was why it was such a big surprise when they found the happiest town in the world last year was in Finland. And they went to Finland and nobody in the town smiled. And they were like, what's going on? We thought you were the happiest town. Why aren't you smiling? They go, why would we smile? We're already happy. And if you're from Minnesota, you totally get that. Why would you do it? You're already there. I want to tell a folk tale. I don't ever get to tell folk tales. So this is a great opportunity because that reminds me of this story I heard years ago, and I've wanted to tell this story for years. And so here it goes. And it was about a town in southern Sweden. And when Freya and Odin and Thor got done with this town, it was so beautiful. They said, we have to do something special for this town. So let's give them a gift. Oh, Odin jumped right in. Odin said, let's give them wisdom. And Thor said, no. We should give them great wealth. And Freya jumped in and said, how about if we make them happy? Then they won't care about the other two. And the god said, yeah. So they made this town happy. And for years, this town was happy and they didn't know why. And people would say, why are you so happy? And they go, we don't know and we can't afford to find out. Well, the happiest person was Ashen Peter. Ashen Peter was the bell ringer of the town. And he'd get up in the morning and he'd ring the bell and everyone would go, morning already. Oh, great. It's raining out. This is great. Oh, it's time for work. Yeah. And they'd go to work. And then at noon, he'd ring the bell. What? So soon? Oh, I hope for lunch we have some rancid shark skin soup. It is rancid shark skin soup. And then they'd go to the night and he'd ring the bell again. Time to go home. Oh, I hope it's rancid shark. It is. And then sometimes at night, he would ring the bell and that would keep the trolls up in the hills because the trolls think bell ringing is Thor's hammer. And this town had already converted to Christianity, but they still had the old ways. It's like I go ice fishing with my buddies, and before they put the minnow down the hole, they always kiss the minnow. And I go, are you guys superstitious? They go, no, we just don't want to jinx it. It was like that. So there was a guy in the town, though, that was really unhappy, and that was the priest. The priest didn't come from that town, so he didn't know what was going on. And he would walk around. I mean, a bad day hung on him like a dog on a sock. I mean, this guy could turn lemonade into lemons. And so he would walk, he wouldn't even look up at happy people. He couldn't stand it. So he'd walk with his head down. And finally, the people, they said, we got to do something about this guy. So they wrote the king and they told the king, you need to do, we feel so bad about this priest. What can you do? And the king said, well, that's how kings talk. Well, you send him to me and I'll give him something to cry about. So the priest got word of this and he knew this was not going to turn out well. So he came to Ashen Peter and he goes, Ashen Peter, would you do me a favor? The king asked me to go to his house. I know what he wants to do. He wants to give me a big meal and have a big party. It'll go all night. And he says, I just can't do it when you get to be my age. 8:30 is the new midnight. Could you just go in my place? And Ashen Peter said, I'd like to, but I got to ring the bell. And the priest said, I'm a priest. I know about bell ringing. I can take over. I don't know, said Ashen Peter. So the priest said, look, Ashen Peter, if you go, the Lord will see this and know you did him a great service. If you don't go, he'll see that too. Oh, said Ashton Peter, thank you, thank you. I would have missed this great opportunity because after all, the Lord sees everything, doesn't he? Yeah, said the priest, I guess he does. So the next day, Ashton Peter put on the robes of the priest and he went to see the king. And the king took one look at Ashton Peter and he said, well, priest, I've heard about you. He said, I'm glad that you could come here, but after what I've heard, I think that we're going to give you what you asked for. And Ashton Peter said, oh, good. Oh, let's get it over with. Keep dishing it out. I can go all night. And the king said, well, I admire your bravery, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you 3 questions. And if you can answer these 3 questions, you can leave here with arms full of gold. If not, I'll give you exactly what you wish for. Oh, said Ashton Peter, that sounds like a win-win to me. All right, fire away. So the king said, question number 1. Now, question number 1 is, how far is it from east to west? And Ashton Peter said, well, I used to be a bell ringer, and I know that the sun rises in the east, and then at the end of the day, it sets in the west. So I'm going to say 1 day, 1 day. And the king said, well, I never thought we would do that. Yeah, all right. Question number 2. Now, these get harder. Question number 2, you've seen all my lands. You've seen my servants. You've seen what I'm wearing. How much to the penny am I worth? Well, Ashton Peter said, you know I'm a priest, so I know that Jesus was sold for 30 pieces of silver. Now, you're very kind and a benevolent king, but you're not Jesus. So I'm going to go with 29 pieces of silver. Oh, said the king very pleased. Nailed it. Yes, very good. Okay, question number 3, though. Now, this is the hardest one. What am I thinking at this very moment? And Ashton Peter said, well, you think you're talking to the priest, but actually I'm Ashton Peter and the priest is back where I live. What? Said the king. What? And then he started to laugh, and he laughed and he said, Ashton Peter, you're just the kind of person I need on my council. If you stay, I'll make you wealthy beyond all your dreams. Ashton Peter said, that sounds really good, but I have to say, I'm really happy at home. I've got a beautiful wife and a loving daughter. I couldn't even ask for more. So if it's all right, I'd just rather go home. And the king said, you're wiser than I even thought. He said, very well, Ashton Peter. Well, I will keep my end of the bargain and give you all the gold you can carry. And he loaded up Ashton Peter and he said, and when you get home, please send the priest back. I have some questions I want to ask him. So Ashton Peter left. And on the way home, he lost all that gold. He still doesn't know where it is. And I know some of you out there going, I wonder where that gold is. And some of you are going, I wonder where that town is. I'd like to go there. And some of you are thinking, I already live in that town. And some of you are like the priest and you're just not happy unless you're depressed. Oh, and speaking of the priest, he did go see the king and they never saw him again. But you can be assured he's living unhappily ever afterward. Oh, and for Ashton Peter, the king called him back several times to come in and give him good counsel. And every time, Ashton Peter left with arms full of gold, which he lost on the way home, back to the place where everyone is happy, no one knows why, and can't afford to find out.
Woo! Very nice, Kevin. Love it.
That was fantastic, Kevin. What a treat to hear you tell a folk tale. Beautiful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like your king, Kevin.
I studied.
Are you
Got a
finished,
future there,
Kevin?
I'm telling you.
Kevin, are you finished?
No, but I got a bunch. I know a lot of fins. Fins are coming out of the woodwork here.
You got another one right here.
Oh, good.
What
Oh,
part of
Finn-
Minnesota do you live?
Yeah.
Fins are good folks. Now,
Kevin, are you working on anything? Any projects going on? Anything you could reveal? Secret Kevin Kling project that might be coming in the future? Or anything? Or
yeah, I'm just writing like crazy right now. And most of it is it's taken a book form, and I'm writing for different publications, and so I kind of went that route, and I'm really enjoying it a lot.
Good.
So yeah, it's just that's kind of the turn I took, and just writing for, you know what, you know how you know a story when you're at the end of it and you look back. I feel like I'm in the middle of this story, so I'm just chronicling now. It's like when you go on a trip, there's the trip you plan and the trip you take. We're still in the trip we're planning.
I'm glad to hear that you're doing okay, and it's good to see you. Will you hang around for one more time through the circle and do another story for
Oh,
us?
of course, yeah.
I'm so glad to see you. You're very. I have a place in my heart for you, Kevin.
Likewise, Don.
All right. So I'm gonna be. I couldn't sit. Let's see. On the 16th, I'm gonna do. I do show every Thursday for different venues, trying to just try to partner with somebody, And so I'm gonna do something for another Indianapolis group on the 16th. It's called Indie Folk. So if you go to my website donwhite.net, you can sign up on my mailing list, and I'll let you know some details on that. But Indianapolis is a good place for me. I only started going there a few years ago, but I have a lot of good friends there. So I'm gonna play this song here for my mom. And for my aunt. This is called More Alive. I lost my mother, I lost my father. Well, I really didn't lose them. I know exactly where they both are. It's not like they went for a walk, took a wrong turn and both got lost. It just hurts less to say I lost them than to say they're dead. Betty May is 82. She's having more fun than me and you. All she wants to do is laugh and sing. She's the biggest flirt I ever seen. Still flutters those baby blues like she did when she was 22. So much mischief in those eyes. I never seen someone more alive. More alive, more alive, waiting on the other side of all the sorrow and the trouble in your life. There are so many sad goodbyes in a long and well-lived life. If they don't break you, they can make you more alive. When my mother died, I was so smashed up inside. I was crying like a baby. I thought the pain might kill me. And Betty said, son, you won't believe how many loved ones I buried. My father, sister, my brother, son, my husband, and my mother. And every time I lose a friend, I think I'm never going to laugh again. I lay around and watch bad TV till this feeling comes over me. And then I put some music on and play my favorite song. Dance around my living room like I did when I was 22. Shake loose of that pain inside on the day when I decide not only will I survive, I'm going to be more alive, more alive, more alive, waiting on the other side of the sorrow and the trouble in your life. There are so many sad goodbyes in a long and well-lived life. If they don't break you, they can make you more alive. She said, go ahead, feel your pain. Watch bad TV for days. But when you're ready to come out and play, you come see Betty May. And we'll put some music on and play your favorite song. Dance around my living room like we both were 22. And shake loose of that pain inside on the day when you decide not only will you survive, you are going to be more alive. more alive, waiting on the other side of all the sorrow and the trouble in your life. There are so many sad goodbyes in a long and well-lived life. If they don't break you, they can make you more alive. There are so many sad goodbyes in a long and well-lived life. If they don't break you, in time they can make you more alive.
Woo! Beautiful, Dawn. Thank you so much.
Sarah.
Beautiful.
Thank you. All right. Well, let's go around one more time. So, Sally, can you treat us to another one of your fantastic stories, please? Where are you?
There. Thank you. My
My
own. So I had a grand plan this year. I had been preparing for 3 years, really, with a 60-minute one-woman show story about how women won the right to vote. And I was planning to travel the country this year telling that story in celebration of the 19th Amendment. That's not happening so much now. And so when all of my plans went a wire and out of the window and so forth, I simply had to think about the parrots. These two gorgeous birds who lived deep in the forest. Oh, they had feathers that were brilliant blue, lemon yellow, ruby red. They were handsome birds indeed. Now, one parrot was wise, and the other parrot was foolish. One day, a hunter came into the forest. He saw those two parrots up in a tree. He captured them. Then he took them to the palace where he presented them as a gift to the king. Oh, the king was enamored with these gorgeous birds, so much so that the king himself made for these birds a cage of pure gold. And the king himself served these birds every day on a plate of gold, honey, the best parched corn in the land, sugar water. Oh, those birds lapped up those meals and probably became diabetic. Everyone in the palace fawned over those parrots. The king, the queen, their children, the nursemaids, the cooks, the guards, they all just adored those two gorgeous parrots. Well, then a few weeks later, the hunter went back into the forest where he found a silver monkey. He captured the monkey and presented it as a gift to the king. As you can imagine, the king was enamored with this monkey. And in fact, everyone in the palace loved to watch the monkey entertain the children with his silly antics. Now, the wise parrot said nothing, but the foolish parrot complained. That monkey gets all the attention. The wise parrot said, by what right does the attention belong to us? Well, we're good parrots. Why, we're loyal to the king. We never squawk. We never bite. We're gorgeous birds. The wise parrot said, profit and loss, praise and blame, pleasure, pain, dishonor, fame, all come and go like the spring. Why should a little parrot grieve? Within the month, the monkey became aggressive. He began to frighten the children. The king would have none of it. So he banished that monkey back to the forest. And once again, all the attention went back to those parrots. The wise parrot said nothing. The foolish parrot preened his feathers. He sang and sang and sang until the wise parrot warned, profit and loss, praise and blame, pleasure, pain, dishonor, fame, all come and go like the spring. Why should a little parrot sing? That is the tale, a Jataka tale. It's from a wonderful Hindu passage that is of great comfort to me.
That was beautiful, Sally.
Thanks, Sally. That's beautiful.
That was just great. Thank you so much. It's so good to get to hear you stretch out a little bit and hear a bunch of your stories. I hope I get to see more of you. And so in the chat over here in Zoom and out on YouTube too, there's information where you can see all these artists, find out more about them. So Mr. Bill Harley, how you doing, buddy? You ready to do something for us here?
Still here, like I said, yeah. This is like all past our bedtimes. I don't know about you. I used to do a show in the evening. I haven't done one for so long. It's like, oh my gosh. All right. This is a song with a story in the middle of it. And it's kind of a musical autobiography I wrote. My mom got our piano from her parents. It took up half the living room floor. My piano teacher came on Tuesday. I hid when he rang the door. My brother had a trumpet that he gave me. But you know what? I'm going to switch this down a little bit. Don, it's there. Because, there.
Nice.
You're probably just wondering, like, is he really playing guitar? You know, when you go to see those movies and the guy's playing a piano, it's like, I don't think he's really playing a piano. My brother had a trumpet that he gave me. When he switched over to the baritone, I played it in the high school band at halftime, in the last uniform I ever owned. Now I make a living from my music, and I see how it all happened. I just laugh, 'cause Mama played piano, my brother played the horn, and Daddy played the phonograph. Okay, it's phonograph. It's the, okay. Sundays after church he played Beethoven, Handel, Bach, and Haydn, and the rest. My dad said, son, there's just two kinds of Mozart, better and best. On weeknights when he pulled into the driveway, Johnny Hodges and the Duke would play. Louie and Ella sang Porgy and Bess. There was Basie and Lady Day. And I didn't know the names of what I heard then, but knowing names it isn't even half. 'Cause all that music's in me, all that stuff I heard when Daddy played the phonograph. If you want to know the secret of music, I think that I can give you a clue. It's not enough to know how to play. You gotta know how to listen too. So my dad was a really formal man. He made himself into a formal man. He was born in Hollinsburg, Ohio, and he grew up poor in Fountain City, Indiana. But he went to college, and he went to law school, and he was in World War II, so he was one of those that just don't talk. And he never loosened up. His idea of loosening up was to unbutton the top button of his Oxford cloth shirt on a Saturday. He used his old Oxford cloth shirts when he painted. Everybody's an answer to their parents one way or another, you know. Shortly before he died, he came out on the back step of his house when I was leaving and said, "Here, Bill, I thought you should have this." He handed me this long box. I said, "What is it? What is it?" He said, "It's a tie. I just want to make sure you have one." But he was very quiet. Even his anger was quiet. So one night, when I was about 8 years old, living on the north side of Indianapolis, he told all of us it was like a Wednesday night. He said, "Everybody get dressed in their ties and jackets." It's like, oh man, I hate my tie and jacket. I hate getting dressed for church. I hated it. And he said, "Put your ties and jackets on. We're going out." It's like, I don't want to go to church in the middle of the week. He said, "Put your tie and jacket on." So he put us in the Plymouth Valiant station wagon. We drove across the north side of town to Butler University, to Clues Hall. Clues Hall had just opened up. It was a brand new concert hall, fanciest concert hall in Indianapolis at the time. And he handed me the ticket when we walked in. I looked down, and it was for Louie Armstrong. I was going to see Louie Armstrong, and I was really excited. I didn't know I was going, but I knew Louie Armstrong. I'd grown up listening to him. My dad loved Louie Armstrong. I knew all the songs. I knew the Hot Five and the Hot Seven. I knew Weatherbird and Why Am I So Black and Blue and Mr. Butter and Eggman. I knew all those songs. And so I was pretty excited to be there. We filed in. It was this big formal hall. It still smelled new. The seats smelled new. The lights were beautiful. The lights came up on the stage. He walked out with a 9-piece band. And Louie Armstrong, he was 75 years old. It was his last tour. He had a hit, you know, what a wonderful world. And there I was, listening to Louie Armstrong, my dad next to me. My dad never talked to me. And this is what he was doing. He was giving me this gift. And I was listening, and I recognized a lot of the songs. In the middle of the show, my dad was there next to me, had his arm around the back of my seat. And Louie takes a break. And he's blowing away. It's pretty good, 75 years old. He's in the middle of this break. He's really blowing, and he comes around. It's a blues, and he takes one more time through, and he takes another time through, and he's going up. He hits a high C. And all of a sudden, my father, he leans forward. He puts his hands out. He goes, "Oh, yeah!" Who was that? I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The other week I stopped to see my parents. Paused before I knocked upon the door, 'cause the string section was coming through the window, and the timpani rattled the floor. We've got digital bytes and graphic equalizers that make every note so crystal clear. I know there's no denying the marvels of science, but it's not art till it gets inside the ear. And all this music living here inside me, the stuff that makes me cry and laugh, is something I'd been missing if I had never listened. Daddy played the phonograph. Oh, Daddy played the phonograph.
Man.
Woo! Wow. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. There you go, Dad.
That might be the best father song I ever heard, Bill. I'm not kidding.
Thanks, son.
The Father's Day masterpiece. Perfect. Man. You're killing me over here.
My job is done.
Yeah, that's right.
Don White is silent.
Yeah, that's right. And the world thanks you, Bill.
Very nice.
All right, that was what a treat, man. That was a masterpiece, beautifully done. I hope I get to hear that again. Put that on an album. Is that on an album somewhere, Bill?
It's on an album from a million years ago, and but it didn't have the story. You know, it's a funny thing. I'm just really interested in the connection between music and the spoken word and how they complement each other. And so I'd written that song and I sang it a lot. And then I can't remember what happened. I just was thinking about that time with him taking me to see Louie Armstrong. And I said, well, that goes there, you know. It takes a long time. You know, like one of those Greeks said, life is short and art is long. It takes a long time.
That's why you need to live a long time to get your art.
Yeah,
going.
exactly.
Well, to me, it was a masterpiece. Like that story fit inside that song as if it was born there, man.
Yeah.
That was really nicely done. All right, Mr. Kevin Kling representing Minnesota. Where are you, buddy? Are you still with us there?
I think so.
What time is it in Minnesota?
That's always about 1950. So I think what Bill was saying about listening, I mean, everybody here and every storyteller I've ever met are good listeners. I think that is even as important or more than being a good teller. So this is a little story about listening. I think if you've noticed, one of my arms is shorter than the other. I have 4 fingers on this side. So when I work with kids, I'll say, we can't high five after the show, but we can high 4 all day. And then they come up after the show and we high 4. And I tell them my right arm hasn't moved. I was in a motorcycle accident. I tell adults this too, because I've learned that adults are out there. I wonder if he knows about his arms. Yeah. So, but when I'm working with kids, I'll say, now what makes you different gives you power. And we talk about that and they say, are you sure? And I go, yeah, I'll prove it. So we write down what makes them different. Then we make superhero characters out of it. And then we go around the circle and they all say who their superhero character is. And we're going around the circle and I got this little girl and I go, what makes you different? She goes, I'm really shy. And I said, I know you haven't said anything all week. And she goes, and I said, well, why does that give you power? And she says, because people forget I'm in the room and I'm invisible and I know everything. And she did. I could ask this little girl about anybody in the class, teachers, and she knew everything about all the people in this class. And in fact, I'd be talking to another teacher and I was like, there she was, where'd she come from? I don't even know. And so I decided to listen like that little girl, really deep, really, because I've learned that really deep listening, when you listen with your entire being, it becomes empathy. And empathy is one of those beautiful things where you get the wisdom from another without having to go through their experiences. And so I started to listen, especially on the bus. And I remember the first day I was rewarded. There's 2 guys behind me, and granted, there was alcohol involved. But one of them goes, guess how old I am? And his buddy goes, don't you know? The first guy goes, yeah, I know. And his buddy says, well, then go with that. So every day I was getting a little something. The bus driver one time I heard say, there ain't a day that goes by, don't say, shoot, I've never seen that before. One time this girl talking on the phone said, he's funny, but not the kind of funny I want to spend the rest of my life with. One time there was a guy and he was talking to himself really loud and swearing and finally a woman sitting on the bus couldn't take it anymore. And she said, please stop talking to yourself. And the man says very calmly, I'm not. I'm getting good advice. So I've been picking up all these things on this bus, and sure enough, over time, it's become empathy. I've started to really care about the different people on this bus, and that's kind of translated to other things. Like, okay, my wife and I have a horse. We keep this horse on this farm that's for Shriners and cops. It's just cop horses and Shriners, and they were training because the St. Paul a few years ago had the Republican convention. So they were training the cop horses to deal with protesters. So we all grabbed signs and we'd be chanting and shouting, and the horses would get near us, and then we'd quick pull out carrots and give them to the horse. So the horses loved protesters, which made them safe around protesters, which was brilliant way to train cop horses. So we're out there, and our horse was in this pasture, and they pointed to a horse. One of the cops says, "That's a retired horse. Don't get near that horse." I said, "Why?" And he goes, "Well, unfortunately, we got that horse and it was beaten as a baby. And so that horse, if you're a man, will try to kill you." And he says, "So just stay away from that horse and you'll be fine." So I stayed away from the horse, and I'd bring our horse, Zeus, his name is, I'd bring Zeus apples, and horses always crowd around when you got apples. So I've got these apples, and you're pushing their heads away, or sometimes you give them a little apple. And I'm pushing this horse wouldn't stop bothering me, And I look, and it was that horse. It was the killer horse. And I'm thinking, oh man, I'm dead. I'm dead. And that horse walked around my right side, and he laid his head on my paralyzed arm, like, I know. And as far as I know, I'm still the only man that can get near that horse. And I always bring an extra apple for him just in case he comes up. So I'm thinking about these horses. At the same time, I'm visiting my buddy. He's a farmer, and he has horses on his farm down in Worthington. And I'm visiting him, and he's this farmer. In fact, they've been around for over 100 years. At the State Fair, you go, and there's a plaque with their name on it, from a 100-year-old farm. And he's had to sell off pieces of his farm as time has gone on. And he's down to just a couple of acres. And one year, he just stopped trying. He got a job in town. He started calling his farm his art. And one year, he plowed up all his crops and planted sunflowers. And all his friends were coming over and saying, "Are you crazy, man? There's no money in sunflowers." And he said, "Yeah, but I can't paint like Van Gogh." Wow. And then this guy, I said, "Dave," I said, what do you like about sunflowers?" And he said, "My favorite thing is, you know how their heads follow the sun all day across the sky?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "A lot of times I like standing out in that field and following with their heads as the sun goes across the sky." I said, "Well, Dave, what do you do when it's cloudy, when there's no sun?" And he goes, "That's even better. That's when they turn and face each other."
Oh, wow. Oh, thanks, Kevin. Oh.
That was fantastic, Kevin.
Ooh.
I don't know anybody like you in my whole life, man. You're one of a kind. I'm glad to be on the planet the same time you're on it, honestly, really.
Likewise, buddy.
I like to say something. There's something he's made me think of, because my son Noah, who's living with us now until who knows when, he said he was with this guy out west, and the guy said, "You heard of deja vu, but do you know what vujade is?" And Noah said, "No, what is it?" He said, "It's when you say, 'Whoa, I never seen anything like that before.'"
Nicely done.
Oh, man.
Well, this has been just a fantastic night. I'll tell a quick little story, and then we'll let it go. But every Thursday I do a show, and I try to have an after party with people that I want to hang out with. It's so hard to get with people. If you go into the chat, or the donation information for the show and for Indianapolis Storytelling Festival, Story Art Center is there. And so if you can afford it, drop a few bucks in there. That would be great. But I want everyone to know that these things are free. I love you, and if you don't have any money, you are welcome. Even when this is all done, and we're out on the road again, if you're a fan of mine or somebody who likes what I'm doing and you don't have any money, just reach out to me. You're welcome at it. I've been without money before. I know how it is, and I want you to feel good to be around, with us all here. So I'm gonna just finish up with a story called "My Messed Up Friend and His Backhoe." And this is a story about my messed up friend, which, I can tell the story from both sides. I have been the messed up friend, and I have some messed up friends. And I want to tell this story because these days when people are isolated, I think it's important to remember people who weren't doing good before this happened. If you were struggling with mental health issues, or you were alone, or just divorced, or whatever, I have a drinking problem, whatever it is, being isolated like this is not helping. So this is just a story about making sure that if you can, you reach out a little bit. I've been doing it. I have an actual Rolodex. Like, that's how old I am. Look at, see that? And it has ink on it. Kevin Klink's number's probably in there, Harley. And so I would go through my physical Rolodex and call somebody every couple of days, someone I know who's alone. And sometimes I'm pretty sure I'm the first person that's talked to them in weeks, and it matters. Little things matter a lot. A little bit of light goes a long way in a dark place, right? If you shine your flashlight at the sun, it doesn't have any value. So so sometimes your messed up friend is you look out your window one day and you see your messed up friend, and he's driving a backhoe into your yard, and you think to yourself, this is a new one. And your messed up friend starts digging an 8-foot hole in your yard. And then he comes up and he rings your doorbell, and by the time you get to the door, he's climbed off your porch and jumped down into the hole that he's dug himself. And you come over and you look down at your messed up friend in this hole that he dug himself, and you say, what's going on? And he said, look at this terrible hole that I'm in. And you say, I just saw you dig that hole. He says, no, I didn't dig this hole. I didn't mess up my life. I didn't create these problems. It was the marriage, the government, my job, the problems. That's what messed me up, and now I'm in this terrible hole, and everything looks awful from where I am. And what he wants, what they always want, is for you to climb in there with them, so you can see how rotten the world looks from where they are. Now, some of you have been here since 7 o'clock, so unfortunately you have listened to me more than anybody should have to, really, in this world, I believe. So when I say to you that I'm not a genius, I think we could have a consensus here that it's unanimous. The last 2 hours have proven that. Right? So, if you walk by and see me down in a hole with my messed up friend, you're not going to see two brilliant people down there. You're going to see two people who have issues that are unresolved. That's what I feel about that. So I never do that. I never climb in the hole with my friend. Instead, I draw a portrait of them. And I'm speaking figuratively. Nobody would want an actual portrait that I drew of them. It would be terrible. But figuratively speaking, I draw a portrait of my messed up friend. But it's not the way they see themselves, because it's the way that I see them. I draw a portrait the way that I see them, because I can see them when their dreams have come true. I can see them when their potential has been fulfilled. I can see them with their wings. And I draw this portrait, and I go over to the hole, and I hold it up, and I say, this is what you get. This is what I have for you. This is all I can give you. This is what you get if you come here. And what happens, what always happens, is that it infuriates them. When they get in their back hole and they leave. And they probably go over your house, see if they can dig a big hole in your yard and try to get you down in it. But sometimes, not a large percentage of the time, let's say 20% of the time, they'll go and they'll get some help. They'll get a group to community group, or join AA, or get some medication, or find somebody to talk to, a psychiatrist. They'll address whatever it is that's hurting them. And a year will go by, and your doorbell will ring, and you'll open your door, and there, standing on the porch, is this person that you love so much, and they're standing there just exactly the way that you drew them. And it's a remarkable thing in this world to be able to look at somebody that you love and say to them, look how beautiful you are. Aren't you glad I didn't climb down in that hole with you? Aren't you glad I didn't agree with the way you saw the world and the negative, and all the sadness that was there? Aren't you glad I didn't support that? Aren't you glad that I saw you in terms of your dreams being fulfilled? And look at you now. Look how beautiful you are. So, uh, looking at the mighty few that are left here with us, and I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you're all doing something kind in this world. And on behalf of humanity, for whom I am the official spokesperson, I just want to tell you that I appreciate it, and I hope you have love in your life, and hope that all the troubles of the world aren't knocking you down too hard. And I hope you have people to believe in. Having people who believe in you is pretty good, but as I've gotten older, I've really come to appreciate the richness of having people to believe in. So that's all I have to say today. I want to thank Ellen Munns and our special guests, all our tellers. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
know, you're welcome. Check me out on white.net. That's, you can find out where I'm doing this. I'm doing it all the time. But I'm going to go wash my face and go to bed now. So thank you all for coming out. Let's
Thanks, Sally.
Thanks,
Bye,
Don.
all.
No,
Thank you,
all.
Sally. Thank you,
You guys are terrific. Thank you so much.
Kevin, and bye from Nebraska. And
Hey, Don White, I love you very much. I'm sorry I was late tonight, but I couldn't make a night without seeing you.
well, you're the best, Neil. Neil Braverman, one of the great human beings on earth. There he is. He's in square number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 right there.
I love you, my friend. I couldn't miss you. Couldn't miss you. And Kevin and Bill, I loved what I heard. I'm sorry I was so late because I know I missed a great night.
It was a good one, Neil, but we'll do it again sometime. Thank you, Ellen, for having us and making this happen. I'll be talking to you, and Harley and Mr. Kevin, thank you so much. I miss you guys. I really do,
Yeah.
man. I really do.
Soon,
And
Don.
Sally, thank you. It was so good
Long,
to
y'all.
hear you. Yeah.
Hey, Sally.
Yeah.
Hey, Sally. Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks,
Yeah.
Don. Thanks,
All
Hey,
right.
Sarah.
All
Thank
right.
you, Ellen.
Thanks,
All right.
Don.
So
Thanks,
listen.
Ellen.
Good night. You have a long drive home, so drive carefully, all of you.
You too, Don.
Thanks, Don. You too.
Good night, everybody.
All right. Bye now. All right.
Thank you, Don.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was good night, wasn't it? It was great.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. I was glad to hear you. I like your style a lot. It was lovely. Good luck to you. So, it's too bad you had all that going and then it got COVID took it away, but COVID doesn't care about you apparently. It doesn't care.
And isn't that the greatest lesson of all, right?
I have this image of COVID floating by my window and looking in here and seeing me with my high blood pressure and my extra weight on my gut, thinking, "Hey, there's a all-you-can-eat buffet in there. We could just get in there and see this guy." So I'm locked down. I am not. I don't believe that this is going to be over anytime soon. I just figuring out how to do it this way and make some money and keep growing. I'm trying to learn how to perform on camera. I worked really hard on it tonight. Some different new things. So